everyone, and welcome to the Shits and Gigs podcast, where the vibe is high, the humor gets raunchy, and things get spicy when we talk about food. I'm your host, Meg Davis, and today I have a special guest, Chef Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And I met Natalie through Elevated, which is the nutrition club I work out of. Shout out to Elevated in West Greenwich, Rhode Island. And she's got her tea hooked up all ready for today, and we're here to chat about how to prep like a pro. Because I think I told you about, we just launched the Nacho Average Prep membership.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I know I mentioned I'm trying to gear it towards the audience that are looking to embrace the macro-friendly, balanced meals lifestyle versus just a fad diet. And for us entering parenthood, prepping ahead and just planning ahead has been super crucial as far as just gaining control over what we're eating and also time management, because that's nearly impossible. Even with you, I'm sure you find it tough sometimes to make food with your crazy schedule.
Yeah, it's extremely challenging, and any preparedness is so awesome, whether it's myself prepping or if my husband's helping prep out for the week. It just sets you up for success, really.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to not have to think about it, because it can be a time-consuming task, and it can be a very aggressive task if you've never had to do it before.
Right.
So I think what you're doing here is great for an audience that might have not been immersed in this world yet, and
Thank
they
you.
have a place to start now. So that's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. And I mean, obviously you are a chef, and even with that background, I'm sure you still, I don't know, not struggle necessarily, but find different ways to incorporate prep in your life. Even with that background, I'm sure it can still be challenging. So what are some things that you feel you really embrace as far as staying on top of what you're eating, or prepping ahead for you and your husband?
So although I'm a chef, I'm like every other person. There are times when I don't want to come home and cook because it's what I'm doing all day. There are times I don't want to come home and do the dishes. So I feel everyone else's struggles, which is why there are a couple things that you can definitely do to set yourself up. Again, depending on what kind of person it is, there's ways that you can meal prep all your meals set out for the week. Or what I like to do actually is ingredient prep.
Okay.
So I'll get my batch of ingredients that I know can mold into different various types of meals.
Nice.
And I can have them prepped for the week. But if I want to, maybe not take a prepared meal and have it ready for dinner, I can still come home and cook the things because they're ready for me.
Okay.
And I feel like I have a home-cooked meal in front of me. It's not something that's already prepared or been sitting in my fridge. So that's one tip that I like to do, because just like anybody else, I can get sick of the stuff I make too, you know?
Yeah.
I was telling my husband that I have the meat ick this week, the chicken aversions.
Yes.
I don't want to even think about protein right now, which is so hard for someone who's trying to maintain muscle and things like that. So just like anybody else, everyone has their struggles, but I'm glad that we're going to dive into some ways that we can get past those things today. Yeah,
so you essentially, like you said, you pick certain ingredients. So say, you maybe, pick 2 proteins for the week, or certain vegetables, and you'll pre-chop or prepare those, and then you'll kind of mix and match throughout the week?
Yeah, so usually we'll do 2 to 3 proteins.
Okay.
And I love salads.
Yeah,
that's one of my things that I always take every week for work. I'm big on having cold food ready because I don't have a ton of time to heat things up or cook them at work, so I can just take them right out of the fridge and eat them. So salads is one of my go-tos.
Yeah. What's your go-to salad toppings?
I am a big. We can swear here, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm a big slut for feta cheese.
Oh my god!
Bad.
Yes! We do fat-free feta, so you can really load it up. Fat-free feta.
Yes. So any Mediterranean salad, that's always what I'm getting.
Yep. Carolina olives.
Yep. Red onions, tomatoes, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what I like to do though to save time is when I make my salad dressing for that, I'll also make it my meat marinade.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I'll just double, triple batch it.
Yeah.
I'll portion out the ones I need, and the rest of it after I cut up my meat or chicken, whatever it is, I'll let it marinate while I'm prepping my other stuff.
That's really cool. I love that. And is it just oil-based type something that you use?
So there's a couple different ratios for emulsified vinaigrettes, ones that are going to stay together. Okay. So it's usually 3 parts oil, 1 part vinegar, and then you have to have an emulsifier, which usually in my case is Dijon mustard or something like that.
Oh, that's so helpful. I would never think to do something like that. Very cool. Yeah, my go-to, definitely fat-free feta.
Yep.
I love the peppadew peppers.
Oh, those are so good.
Or what are they also called? They have another name. Peppadew,
I've only seen them as Peppadew.
Yeah,
in the
okay.
grocery
I
store,
forget what
yeah.
the other name is. They're in like a weird section though. At least at Market Basket.
Hard to
you
find
know, that's
too.
my go-to.
Yeah, yep.
They're in like a weird like center fridge, but like on the top part. Like it took me forever to find them.
Yeah.
Oh, picante peppers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I love those because they're kind of like sweet and spicy.
Those actually make a really good salad dressing. If you blend those up with some oil and the juices in it, and then a little bit of like coconut sugar or brown sugar, it's really good.
Yeah, I know Jess has told me a couple times to do the juice in the jar for like on top of pasta.
Yep.
When you like go to store it, so then it doesn't dry out or whatever happens to pasta. I don't know. I just keep it really simple around here, so I don't get too crazy. But anyways, so you do prep for ingredients, and then Josh and I, with like the Not So Average prep method, our go-to is we have, we like plan out our meals for the week. So then we at least are aware of like what meats we have to take out the night before and stuff like that, because when we were first trying to figure it out, we would have everything, and then we would not take out the meat, and we just like then couldn't eat our dinner because the meat was not defrosted. Any tips for like quick defrosting?
So if I'm gonna put on like my food safety teacher hat, really, you should take it out about 48 hours beforehand and keep it in the fridge to defrost fully.
Okay.
If I'm in my like crap, I don't have anything to eat hat on. You can either run it under the sink at tepid water, like 70 degrees.
Okay.
But nothing hotter than that, obviously, or else it'll start cooking it.
Gotcha.
And that's fine. Way to defrost it.
Okay.
But other than that, that's mostly what I do.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. I've definitely done I let it like sit in the sink in the water.
Yep.
Like at like room temp or whatever it is. Is that okay?
It's hard because like you're supposed to have water running.
These are questionable choices.
But then my adult brain is like, well, I could be saving so much water if I just didn't.
Just let it sit.
Let it sit in there.
So preferably running water.
Yeah, preferably like a stream of running water.
Okay.
If you forget, but also, if you defrost things in the microwave, you just have to cook them right away.
Gotcha.
So that's another thing you can do also.
Noted. Awesome. All right, so prepping ingredients, prepping meals ahead, whatever floats your boat and could be easy for you at home. Definitely embrace either of those to decrease the stress and increase your success with eating what you would like to make you feel really great. What inspired you to become a chef? I never asked you that.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, and people are like, oh, of course, this is your story, but I've always loved cooking.
Yeah.
So I was actually adopted into an Italian-American family. And we know Italians, big cooks. Big foodies.
Mangia.
Yep, exactly. And so I grew up with my nonna, my grandmother, and I started out on a small stool next to the table, making the pizzelle dough, the cookies, pounding out meat for braciole or braciolini.
Okay.
So she really inspired the cooking part.
Yep.
And she kind of helped me in the kitchen more. My mom was not a huge cook. She would always have something on the table for us, but my grandmother was really the inspiration behind that.
Love that.
I actually went into a high school culinary arts program similar to the one I teach at now.
That's so cool.
And then I knew I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
I know I always want to work with food and be in the food industry, and then that led me to teaching, thankfully.
And she, like she mentioned, teaches at a culinary arts program at the local high school. And you guys actually just got, we've been chatting about your food truck. How is that going?
So we are not, none of us are super versed in owning a food truck, but thankfully we have a lot of industry resources and connections that have helped us out.
Yeah. It's
a great learning opportunity for the kids. It's a huge task behind the scenes, but whenever we see a task, we're going to take it head on, and we told ourselves, we have this opportunity in front of us. We're going to make it the best we can, especially for the kids' sake. Yeah. So we got all our paperwork in line, all of our ducks in a row.
Good.
And we're getting ready to do a dry run soon.
Cool.
And then have all the operating procedures for the kids so that they can be safe and make sure that everything is down packed for them.
I love that.
Yeah. And then hopefully this spring we can take some clients for the food truck side of things.
Yeah.
And drive it around.
Right.
That thing, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, if you think of a normal size food truck, it's like double the size.
Really?
Yes.
And that is so how did this even come about with getting a food truck?
Yeah, so this was through a grant for the state of Rhode Island.
Okay.
Through the Rhode Island Department of Education.
Nice.
And they wanted to incorporate more aspects of the hospitality industry for students.
Yeah.
And so they had, I think it was $125,000 per district that wanted the truck.
That's so cool.
And I think 12 of us in the state have it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I know we had chatted about this many times, but I think it's big on also just enlightening kids on like an entrepreneurial aspect because food trucks, I mean, podcasting, there's so many different options out there for entrepreneurism. But I think what's cool about what you're doing with the truck is that like it shows like the behind the scenes work that people have to put in to make that dream come true, because it's like everyone just thinks you're going to get like famous overnight because of like a TikTok or whatever. Exactly. And it's just not ideal to think that way. And I feel, I don't know what you see like with your students at school, but I just feel like a lot of the up and coming like generation just has like a very decreased or like low work ethic when it comes to, I don't know, like dreaming big or like seeing like the reality behind the big dream, like that kind of thing. Like what's your take on that?
For sure. I 100% agree. We've definitely seen that kind of, I don't want to say decline, but the lack of wanting to put in the work. But again, I can understand why. They've had many things affect the professions that they see, how people do become famous overnight, things like that. But I'm glad that my students are definitely humbled by being in the program to see that this is actually what working in a restaurant is like, because we do run a full operating restaurant open to the public, so they see everything that goes into it, between the planning of us and the other chefs, between the coordination of what student has what job, and we're very transparent with them. You know, we will tell them straight up that this industry is not for the
weak-hearted.
How do I say? Yeah, it's not for the weak-hearted. You know, you kind of have to have a tough skin at some times, but on the flip side, I also think the industry has recently done a great job of kind of taking away that stigma of, you know, you're going to get beat up in this industry, you're never going to have time off. So I think we're coming to like a happy medium.
That's awesome. Yeah, because that is, I feel like, a stereotype.
Right.
And I know even people to this day, there are older people still in like the restaurant business because like the money's so good, but they do struggle in most instances at like your typical restaurant sometimes with that like work environment, which can be challenging.
Yeah.
But that's awesome you're seeing a turnaround for sure.
Yeah, so my students definitely know what it's like to put in the hard work, and you know, they all have aspirations of being in the food industry, which is great, and seeing their work ethic and then seeing them go on to either post-secondary education or their job, I know from seeing their performance that we've done the right thing to prepare them. So, you know, I always praise my students because they do an awesome job.
Good.
But I definitely do see kind of like a flat line in the general population. It is hard, but I love that kids are still dreaming big. That's the important thing, because you can achieve anything you want to. It just takes some grit and hard work.
For sure. So I hope that through different like outlets like the podcast and like the program that you're running, it starts to bring like a sense of reality and like those good work ethics to like the generation that's up and coming, because it's a little scary out there right now.
A little scary,
some of the people that are growing up nowadays. I don't know. It's crazy, man.
And you working with the public eye, I'm sure you see some bizarre things
some
going
wild
on too.
People out there. I'll tell you that.
For sure.
How about, let's talk about, we already did the prep. What's your like go-to in a pinch dish?
So although I'm a teacher, my schedule is crazy. It's a little bit wild. And
because you do the after hours.
Yes,
work
we're there
sometimes
like from 5:30 in the morning to 8 at night, and it almost feels like I am running a restaurant in some sense. So
sounds it.
So some days are challenging. My husband is not the best cook. Honey, you know that's true if you're listening. We love you, but so usually my meals in a pinch he's preparing, but there's a couple things that he has kind of mastered now that I'm completely confident that he can take over. So in those times where I might not be home and we need something fast, I like to use the 80-20 rule as far as 80% fresh homemade, 20% getting a little bit help from prepared foods, which
Okay.
I feel like you kind of use that logic too.
Yep.
So one of our favorite things that's easily accessible to everyone is Trader Joe's frozen items.
Oh yeah, for
and,
sure.
Yeah, so we'll either do like the frozen kung pao chicken, the frozen chicken teriyaki, or anything of that sort. But we'll only use one of the sauce packets to keep it kind of more macro friendly.
I do the same thing.
Yep, but not sacrificing flavor.
Yeah.
And then any other protein that I have in there, I'll kind of supplement in with maybe some frozen broccoli, some extra vegetables, and then just some like steamed rice.
Yeah.
You have a nice, well balanced, macro friendly meal right there.
Yeah. Actually, going to the frozen foods, because I do lean a lot on like frozen vegetables and stuff, just because a lot of times it's already pre-prepped, which cuts down on like prep time.
Yep.
And I do try and buy like organic if it's an option, but I have heard from either like people talking to me about it or just like in general, is it true that like the nutrient density is like different in frozen foods? Or...
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So frozen foods are picked at their peak.
Okay.
So they are picked at their peak and either blanched, which is partially cooked and then frozen, or just frozen right away.
Okay.
So they are very nutrient dense at what their peak would be. So they're pretty ideal.
Nice.
The problem you come across with preparing frozen vegetables is the texture.
Yeah.
So depending, like I'll buy certain frozen vegetables that I know will hold up really well.
Yep.
Like peas, corn, frozen artichoke hearts, spinach, all those things are great.
Yeah.
But sometimes I bite into like a watery piece of broccoli and I'm like, this is not my taste today.
Yeah.
So I definitely will pick and choose which ones I get frozen.
Gotcha.
But again, they're fantastic.
Okay. So the nutrient density is actually like not necessarily better, but it's not depleted.
Right, for sure.
Because that was what I was concerned about, because I had heard that from a couple people, and I just wasn't sure what the actuality of that was.
They're actually great nutrient-wise, and they're just as good as fresh.
I think actually 2 of my biggest life hacks that I found in the freezer recently is pre-chopped onion.
Oh.
# no more tears. I have not chopped an onion in over a year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, pre-chopped onion, and then the little, they like pop out, it's already pre-prepared, the spices, like basil and garlic.
Garlic,
it's
cilantro, ginger. I always have the ginger and garlic on hand.
Yeah, they're so easy.
Yeah. Especially when you're not prepping for so many people.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like, okay, I have a whole head of garlic. You know, I'm not going to use the whole thing this week.
Exactly.
It's great to have those.
That and cilantro is like the biggest culprit. I literally need like this much.
A tablespoon,
and you have to buy like, a bundle of it, and it just... It, like, looks nice in the fridge for 2 weeks, and then I throw it away.
Yep.
So it's whatever. And then I'm trying to think of our go-to dish. Kind of something similar, honestly. Like you said, we use a lot of the Bells and Evans chicken.
Okay.
Because it's air-chilled. That's kind of been one thing I've been focusing on. I don't know about you guys, too, because you're super active and, like, try to eat clean. But one of the things I've been paying attention to is like the quality of meat that I'm eating, because that has gotten real sketchy.
Yes.
Do you know of anything that like that people should be really mindful of when it comes to like meats, as far as like the grade or the quality?
So honestly, your best bet is to eat like organic or grass-fed. But I actually heard on a separate podcast that I follow a very interesting fact that I guess if you are deemed as grass-fed meat, there are certain stipulations you can get past.
Really?
So as long as they are grass started and grass finished, and don't quote me on that, but at some point in their life they could eat grain. And I thought that was very interesting. So it's like all these little things, you know, it's hard.
So crazy to, I don't know, for me, it's already so overwhelming to just be mindful of all of these things we have to be aware of, because our labeling laws suck, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways that people can finagle in like a certain or a high percentage. I want to say it's like 30% impurities on a label.
Yeah.
Meaning like what's on the label could be up to 30% false.
Correct.
Which is wild to me that that's even a standard for our country. And I actually had just done an article on eggs in the Natural Average Pet membership about like the different like cage-free versus pasture-raised and all this, because they put all these different labels on like the material of like the marketing for a product, but then like people are either unaware what it actually means, or there's a lot of ways like organic is even like not necessarily like a high quality label anymore, because there's so many ways to get around it. I think it's something like as long as like X amount of ingredients in that product is organic, then they
yeah.
can label it as organic, but then there's still all this trash stuff in
Right.
it. So it's so
Right.
wild. But yeah, grass-fed, I know the air chill processing, I think, has to do with, like, decreased bacteria exposure, right?
Mhm.
Or, I don't know.
I'm not super familiar with air chilled,
Yeah.
but I can assume that
It has something to do with that, right?
once they get it, it's automatically, does that mean it's like IQF frozen, like individually quick frozen, or?
As far as I'm aware, I think, like, throughout the whole prepping of the meat, it's in, like, a chilled environment or something.
Got it. Yeah.
So I would assume
it's
it would
never
have to
in
do...
like the temperature danger zone.
Yeah.
There's no risk, or there shouldn't be like a risk of bacteria.
Yeah, and then
like
I
that.
know for the Bells and Evans brand, it's like all vacuum sealed for the most part,
Mhm.
from what I've noticed, anyways.
Yeah.
But that's been like my go-to brand, and grass-fed for like meat. And then actually, Market Basket has some bison meat, so that's always something different to like switch up what we're eating. And that's like a leaner like protein and whatnot. Cool. But yeah, I would say our go-to dish is typically like a steamable rice or like something like that, and then we lean on like one of those frozen foods. Trader Joe's is by far the best for like the prepared like seasoned items.
Yep.
Super easy for like bringing things to fruition for an easy meal. And how about, let's see, actually I had a random question that came up today when I was doing dishes. What is the proper way to clean a baster?
Okay. So I feel like there are a lot of smallware tools and equipment out there that people are just like, how do I clean this or take this apart or make sure it's going to be safe to use?
Right.
But depending on what kind you have, usually the actual suction cup part at the top comes off.
Yes, it does.
So honestly, as long as you are washing, rinsing, and sanitizing in that process, everything that touches food, you will be fine. So I always try and break things down as much as possible so that I can get into those like nooks and crannies and make sure that there's nothing. Even if you wanted to, kind of soak it for a little bit to kind of help things loosen up and get some stuff off, but yeah, that's a tricky one.
Turkey bacon?
For sure.
Oh my god, dude. It like grosses me out. There's a couple things that I just cannot handle. I am like a team player when it comes to doing chores, but when it comes to sauce in like with water or like grease and water, I just cannot do it.
Yeah.
So like pasta sauce, like pans or like the grease sucker thing, I'm just like all set and I'm like, how is this even clean? Because that's disgusting. Yeah. But thanks for enlightening me on that. I'll still have Josh do it.
Yep, right. Just pass it over.
Yeah, at least we have a standard. All right, and then one thing I know we wanted to chat about today that you prepared. I decided we're not gonna run around the kitchen because the whole transition with everything will be a little weird.
I could follow you with the laptop now.
I love that you're a team player, but we're gonna stay here, and I'll just try and mentally check off things that I might have in our kitchen. So Natalie prepared a list of 10 pantry items that are ideal to have in your house at all times to, again, ease the stress of, like, being last minute with a meal or just, again, being prepared in general. So let's go into that. I'm going to do this. All right, go ahead.
So it's probably going to sound, probably like to you and me, very obvious that we probably have these things, but to someone who isn't used to meal prep, or might not have prepared many meals in their life, this might seem like a lot of things for you, but I would say, find out the things you like, and then stick to those things, because that's what I do. I'm sure that's what you do.
Yeah, everyone has their own staples.
Right, exactly. So one of the main things, and we eat rice, like pounds of rice a week, so any type of grain that's ready to use, like rice, quinoa, oats, all of those are healthy carb sources, and they're kind of like blank slates. I like to look at them as, so something we've been doing recently is I'm taking any leftover grains in the fridge I have at the end of the week, and I'm making a grain salad. Which is not very popular, I feel, grain salads. So I'll kind of fluff it up with any vegetables I have, and then I'll either make a quick dressing or vinaigrette, or whatever one I have left in the fridge, and I'll kind of toss it together, and that's like my side with my protein.
Yeah,
so perfect,
I love
right
that.
There.
A lot of people have been putting like pasta and stuff on their salad too.
Yes,
I noticed.
Yep, I love that too.
Yeah, I think I did couscous or quinoa recently. It was pretty good. Yeah. It just like adds another texture.
Yeah,
in there.
for sure.
Love that.
Another one that is super useful for adding texture, pops of sweetness or flavor is any type of nut, seed, or dried fruit.
Okay.
Super good, whether it's, like traditionally people will put like craisins or cranberries in the
Love
salad.
me some craisins in the salad.
Some like Waldorf salad or something, But really, any type of nut or seed, like chia seeds, hemp hearts, super nutritionally packed and dense. Goes great with oats or on top of any of those grains. So things like that.
Yeah, I think we definitely have craisins. Right now we have like an assorted nut combo from like a Christmas gift.
Yep.
But I'll typically, I think my go-to nut is like the pecans.
Yep.
Or pumpkin seeds are like my go-to.
Yep. So. And great snacking on in a pinch too.
Right.
One of my favorite things to do right now is take a combination of nuts and seeds, and then I'll toast them, and then I'll add like a tablespoon of oil, maple syrup, and some spices.
Yum.
And then I'll make like a quick brittle and put it in the oven, and then I'll crumble it on top of my salad, so it's like a healthier crouton kind of situation. Yeah.
So fun.
That's super good too.
Love that.
Another thing I love in the pantry in a pinch, canned protein. Believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, like chicken or tuna.
Yep, like low sodium chicken, low sodium tuna. Those are fantastic.
Yeah.
I always try and go for low sodium just so I can control the salt content, obviously. But even if you're putting something in a salad, like olive oil packed tuna is fantastic and super healthy for you. So those are quick options too.
And like you don't want to be too afraid of the fats because it's derived from the fish, and then olive oil is like a healthier fat.
Right.
So even then you just maybe want to be mindful with how you like lay out your fats the rest of the day, depending on how much or how little you use.
Right.
But we definitely land on that for sure.
Yeah.
I remember when Jess and I first opened the club, we literally lived on the salad packets and then like the tuna pouches.
Yes. Yeah.
We would just like
tuna
literally
creations.
Yeah, we would like literally shake it up in the bag and then just like eat out of the bag in between customers.
And honestly, like it's a nutritious, healthy thing,
exactly.
And it's in
so
a pinch,
easy.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So those are really good, and sometimes too, like I'll take those and repurpose them. So I'll take like low sodium canned chicken breast, and I'll put it in like my buffalo chicken dip or something, like a macro friendly buffalo chicken dip. So easy ways to just like swap out things in a pinch.
Right. I know the canned chicken can be a weird texture for some people.
Yeah.
So I typically, for us, I'll use it for like chicken salad or something.
Right.
I don't know if I would eat it right out of the can myself. Tuna, I'm more so likely to eat out of the can. But I'll use it like for the dips, or I do like a buffalo chicken spaghetti squash bake. So usually if it's gonna be like cooked or like even enchiladas, I've used it for. It's super
or like
easy.
shredded / ground.
Right. Yeah. So cool. I love that.
That's a good one too. Yeah. Another one that I really like is canned or dried, depending on your time frame. Legumes. So chickpeas, black beans, things like that. Again, I always try and look for low sodium. Yeah. And depending on what you are using it for, I like to rinse mine first, depending on, again, what I'm going to use it for and the purpose. But the liquid that's left over is actually very useful too, especially for people that might be vegetarian or vegan. Okay. The liquid left over in the can is called aquafaba.
Sounds sketch.
Bizarro name. Yeah, I don't know why it's called that necessarily, but that thing can be used for a wide variety of things. You can make a vegan mayo from it. Really? Yeah. You can use it as a binder in some things. Okay. It's very versatile. You can whip it up, and it actually almost mimics egg whites. No way. So if you're a vegan, I've seen people make like a chocolate mousse with aquafaba. Really? Yeah. Interesting. So it's very versatile. Aquafaba. I'm a big proponent of using everything that I'm purchasing. That's super helpful. Yeah, and I know it's intimidating for some people, and they might be thinking, well, I don't have the creativity or the mind to use everything I have. I can't look at a empty fridge and say, I can make something out of this. Yeah. But I challenge people to do that, because that's one of my favorite things to do. Same. Yeah. Honestly, when we make a random meal, it's sometimes the best meal. Yeah. And people make fun of me for, like, having super random meals. I've been better since we started the membership because I need photos now and it needs to be a standard. But yeah, I like love being like, okay, we have to go grocery shopping tomorrow. We have like nothing in our fridge. What can we make out of like what's in our cabinet or like in the fridge or whatever? Because I think that's another passion or part of the passion project of Natural Average Prep. We have some like fuel your inner foodie meals, and they might be a little more complex of a meal. They're kind of geared towards like date night or just like you finding like fun in cooking again.
Because I really think cooking can be just so therapeutic because you can just like throw on some tunes, like set the vibe like nice and high for your kitchen, and just like get in a groove and like really like tune in and like figure out like what flavors really turn you on and get you excited. And so like some of the meals that were with like the initial launch were like our homemade pizza. We do like pizza every Friday
I've seen
night.
That,
yeah, that's like our thing. Perfected the pizza. It's awesome.
Nice.
Enchiladas, like not necessarily like a super complex meal, just like a lot of little parts, but then you can like personalize it and like pick what toppings you want and like things like that. Because yeah, I don't know, people just, I think it's like so fast paced nowadays. People just don't take the time to like have fun in the kitchen and like cook an actual meal for themselves.
You have to look at it as not a chore, but something that's going to better you and make you feel so much better. Because not only do I feel good if I'm prepared, I feel good if I'm fueling myself well.
Yeah, right. The food you eat makes such a difference with how you feel.
Right. And I can tell if I, kind of like half-ass my prep one week, or if I only prep for a couple days and I never prep again on Wednesday, I can totally tell. And it affects everything that I do. My body, my performance in the gym, how I feel during the day, my cognitive function. So I think 2024 we have to stop looking at meal prep as like ugh, and like you should get excited about it.
It's like a self-care routine, kind of.
And it's like it's the foods you're eating. Everyone loves food. Everyone loves a variety of foods. Make the things you want.
Right. Let's make meals great again.
Yeah. 2024, we're coming for you.
All right.
Oh man.
Let's get back to the topic here.
Another one I love in a pinch in the pantry is jarred sauces.
Okay.
So whether it be, I keep all the time in my pantry a sodium-free, just like crushed tomato sauce.
Okay.
So I can add that in a pinch to anything. I really love mixing pesto and tomato sauce for my pastas.
Okay.
Yep.
I haven't done that before.
Yep. Or I'll do like a little bit of pesto in, have you ever done the Alfredo sauce with cottage cheese?
No.
Okay, really good.
Oh wait, I have added cottage cheese to like a tomato sauce. Is that what you're saying?
As like a cream component? Yeah, so like same thing.
Okay.
So I'll just make that the base, and then I'll add a little bit of pesto and like boost up the flavor.
Yum.
Super good. Yep.
Yeah, and I am not a cottage cheese person. The texture freaks me out.
Same.
But if you blend it, you can't even taste it.
Right, agreed.
I've added it into the eggs. That was like a trend for a while. Cottage cheese eggs.
I couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it?
I tried it, and I was like, nope.
You like scrambled it in and everything?
Yep. Couldn't do it. It has to be blended for me.
Okay. Yeah, that was good. I've done the sauce. I'm trying to think, I've done it in like pancakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. People were adding cottage cheese into everything.
I know, it's everything. Yeah, and like now it's like out of stock in the grocery store sometimes. It's crazy.
And then for the person that maybe is intimidated by the whole combining like canned tomatoes with whatever, what's like, do you have a go-to like jarred sauce? Like, I know like, what's the one I usually get? Rouse or Rayo's.
Rayo's, yep.
Is that a good one?
Rouse? What did you say?
Rouse?
Yeah, Rayo's is really good. Again, I always go to the back. The fewer ingredients, the better.
Got it.
And sometimes if I don't have a sauce, something super quick is I'll do some bone broth in my pan. And then, pasta has a ton of gluten in it.
Yeah.
So it's going to emulsify that sauce when you mix it together and thicken it up. So even if it's just a light sauce, but again, the fewer ingredients, the better.
Okay.
Some tomato sauces can be like a couple hundred calories per serving.
And there's so much sugar in some of them. That's another thing I've been paying attention to, the quality meat, and then like sugar is something I've been trying to hone in on, because I feel like for me, my muscles and like my joints tend to be like inflamed a lot. And I'm like a pretty avid like stretcher. I just started my back stretches again. I've been pretty good. I had a rough week with my back a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty good about like drinking my water and stuff like that. So I'm trying to pinpoint maybe certain ingredients in our diet that could be inflammatory.
Yeah.
And sugar, I know, is like a huge one for people. So
we'll have to do part 2 of the podcast, because I just did a food sensitivity test.
Oh, really?
For similar reasons. Yeah, my husband got it for me for Christmas. So
got it.
You had to like draw blood like from your finger and put it on a paper, and then it tests like over 300 different types of foods that you might be sensitive to.
Did you already get the results back?
Not yet. I'm waiting on them, but I have been playing around with gluten and different spices.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I think I've pinpointed that beans are not really good for me.
Okay.
So, it takes a while to kind of navigate through that, but I'm excited to see the results.
Yeah.
I'm excited, but also like think I'm gonna be sad when I see
Yeah,
some of the
right?
results, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But as long as I keep telling myself it's gonna make me feel better, so.
Right, exactly. Just falling in love again with like that feeling of feeling good.
Right.
Like and like the foods. That's what I think we need to kind of decrease the stereotype around too. Like good versus bad food.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily foods are good versus bad. It's just different foods make every person feel differently.
Right.
So, and like when it comes to processed food that have a bunch of sugar, like that's gonna maybe feel you like make you feel super like laggy or like foggy and not super crisp. Whereas like if you eat something that maybe still has a similar taste or flavor profile but is like more hearty ingredients, you're gonna feel completely different.
Yeah.
So it's like pinpointing what foods make you feel good versus bad versus labeling food good as bad and like healing that like food relationship that everyone's struggling with because of how we all grew up with like food's the enemy or like you have to eat nothing in order to lose weight and like now that trend and like studies have shown like that's not the case. So there's like a lot of sketchy relationships when it comes to food and I think a lot of people luckily because of the vast amount of information on the internet now that's like so easily accessible, people are trying to like turn that around finally, which is nice.
And I think everyone kind of goes through that,
right?
You know, like I was a person or a kid when I was younger. I was very overweight. I lost over 100 pounds.
Oh wow!
Yep.
Go
so,
you!
Thank you. So did I do things perfectly always? No, but it's a lot through trial and error.
Yeah.
You have to kind of find your own path, find out what foods work for you and what foods can't. And I mean, like we're still on this journey, late 20s, 30.
Yeah, there's always 30.
Late 20s.
Yeah.
I mean,
30 club over here.
30. Yeah. So you're always on that journey, whether it's for your gut, for your skin, or just making sure you're fueling yourself the right way. So.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. All right. What number are we on?
We're getting up there.
Okay.
I have a couple more.
Okay.
One of my really important ones is different types of vinegars to have in your pantry.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know if, you know, for like the chef people out there, people always say like salt, fat, acid, heat. Like there's a book that's labeled that.
Okay.
Different things you can add to your meal to really balance them out and round them out together. So I add vinegar to almost anything.
Got
you
it.
know, a lot of people see it as, oh, well, if I'm just making a pickled item or if I'm just adding it to salad dressing, but really a dash of vinegar to finish off some of your dishes or soups or things like that can really add some brightness.
Really?
It's also just super gut friendly.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about like the huge trend was apple cider vinegar.
Yes, apple cider vinegar shots.
Yep.
Have you ever done the shreds shot?
No.
It's, oh god, we did it for a challenge a while ago. It's apple cider vinegar, cream of tartar, and lemon juice maybe. It was the most disgusting thing.
An acid bomb.
It did work.
Yeah.
I felt like I mean obviously I was embracing other healthy habits at the time also, so I don't know if that was like exactly what like gave me that awesome result, but it was rough. But yeah, it is. They do have great gut qualities for sure.
Like we look at all these fermented and pickled things and how people say they're so good.
Yep,
so good for your
gut.
Yeah, Olipop. Yep. So you know, adding those to your meal is gonna really balance out the flavor and round it out. And you know, like I love vinegar on things to add that little boost of brightness and freshness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was always the person to put like malt vinegar on my French fries and things like that. So it's a good thing to have. And there's so many wide varieties.
Yep.
You know, there's vinegars that are flavored. There's vinegars that are just your base vinegars, like red wine, apple cider. So play around with it. Like, you know, make some pickles or something.
Are we touching upon oil at all in your
list?
Okay.
Yes.
I'll ask my question when we get to that then.
So neutral oil, I have. Now, there's a wide variety of different types of oils. In my pantry, I like to keep a very high quality olive oil that I don't want to cook with because the flavor is so good and so robust. I kind of want to use that to either finish things or as like a dipping oil or things like that.
Gotcha.
And then I always like to have a heart healthy neutral oil like avocado oil or avocado spray for my nonstick spray, things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's something I've kind of just always been an olive oil girl, but I do agree with like the flavor just can really make a meal sometimes.
Right.
So I will cook with it, but maybe I'll try the avocado oil.
Yeah.
And then I know Josh had mentioned from the Joe Rogan podcast, a lot of the seed oils are actually not super great to consume. Do you have any feedback on that?
No, I haven't done enough research in the processing of them to know enough. I usually stick to my avocado and olive oil, or even coconut oil, so I don't really dive too much into that realm. other than if I was using like a sesame oil for my Asian inspired dishes and things like that.
Okay.
But again, I kind of like to stick to the fewer ingredients, the better.
Right.
So, I'm really trying to cut out like the mixed blended oils and the vegetable oil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And keep a focus on the better healthy fats.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Couple other things. Well, you know what? The other two we already mentioned. So pasta and bone broth or stock.
Yep.
Both essential. And bone broth really, I don't think people realize it really boosts the protein content of something. So I've been subbing that out. Like I made chili yesterday with some lean ground beef and I used bone broth. And it like really boosted up the macro profile of it.
I've been trying to use that more as well. I did try and drink it by itself the other day. And I don't know if it was the one that I bought or if bone broth just tastes like this, but it tasted like dirt. Is that like pretty typical?
It depends on the brand, honestly. Like I saw this, and like I feel like TikTok sometimes is a blessing and a curse, but I saw this bizarre trend. People are making bone broth hot chocolate.
Ew.
So bone broth is the base instead of milk.
Oof.
And then they're adding like a teaspoon of cocoa powder and then some like sugar-free melted chocolate in. And they're like, this is great. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that.
Right.
Though. You know, like
I don't know. Like it almost tastes like you are eating a bone.
Right, like it has a distinct taste. It's like, it's derived from simmering bones for hours. I don't know if like a teaspoon of chocolate is going to really change that.
Right.
But if it does taste great, fantastic.
I mean, maybe it would taste similar to like the mushroom coffees that are like
maybe,
trending. I don't know.
I'm like kind of afraid to try it. I don't know if I want to try it. I think I'm just going to stick to my regular routine.
Right.
But the last one is a wide variety of spices.
Got it.
And I feel like a lot of people under-season food, especially when they're starting to cook on their own.
Yep.
Like, my favorite thing always at every holiday, I go home for the holidays and I'm seasoning, whether it's the turkey for Thanksgiving or I'm seasoning the gravy or something, and my mom is just astonished at the amount of salt I use. But, if you're using natural ingredients, the amount of salt you're adding to it isn't going to necessarily make it high sodium.
Okay.
So, a lot of the processed things, they're impacting and injecting a lot of sodium into these things to preserve them.
Okay.
So, salt, very important. Pepper, very important, and then a wide variety of spices.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
love spicing it up, for sure.
And like trying, playing around with different ones.
Right.
Trying different ones. I mentioned that like little seed brittle that I make for my salads.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll put some fennel in that, It reminds like you of the sausage taste you would get like an Italian sausage.
Okay.
Things like that. So play around with spices.
Yeah.
Trader Joe's has some great pre-made spice blends if people are a little intimidated, so you kind of know what you're going to get and what you can use it for. But those are some pantry staples that I always have on hand. I'm sure you have a lot of them too.
Yeah, my cabinet is a mess.
Yeah.
I feel like there is no way to really organize. I'm sure you actually probably have a nice spice cabinet.
No, because I always look at like people's houses on like Instagram or TikTok, and I'm just like, where is all of your stuff? Like, I try to be as minimalist as possible because that's what I like.
Yeah, same.
As far as style goes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, where is your spice rack? Where is your this? Where's your that? And I'm like, is it hidden somewhere? Is there a secret compartment? Because I'm like, my spices are in one of those big plastic tubs from like Walmart, like the ones that are decorative but not decorative. And it's just on my pantry shelf.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like whenever I need spices, I lift it up, bring it over, use what I need, and put it back.
Yeah, I did attempt. I had a similar organization system, but it was like the smaller little bins, and I tried to put like Mexican spices in one and like Italian seasoning in the other. But then they just end up everywhere.
You're like, this lasted a week. That was great.
Yeah. But I love spicing it up. Great suggestion. And like, don't be afraid to spice up your food. Like, healthy eating does not have to be boring and bland at all. And I just wanted to touch point back to the salt. So, as far as keeping things low sodium goes, you're saying a lot of meats and stuff that are high processed, they're injecting that salt into the meat. So then that adjusts like how much sodium is in that particular item, but if you're necessarily just seasoning it on top, it's different? Or?
Right, so processed foods in general have, we know, a ton of sodium, whether you're looking at a bag of chips, whether you're looking at a prepared meat dish or a prepared sauce. Like, they pack so much sodium into those things.
Yeah.
So we need sodium. It's a part of our body. We need it for electrolyte purposes, to stay hydrated. People actually think the opposite. Yeah. And, I was one of those people, too, back when I was in college. I was like, okay, the little the sodium, the better. Right. And I was like, I have brain fog. My body's not functioning right. My joints were hurting.
Yeah.
So I was like, something's wrong. But a podcast that I do listen to, which is a great one, I think I've mentioned it to you, it's called Mind Pump.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's these 3 guys that come from various parts of the fitness industry, and they have a lot of great information.
Cool.
And they're big sponsors, they're big users of LMNT.
What's
or
that?
Elements.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard
so
of that.
it's, a sodium based item, and I use it, and I'm shocked that I can have that much sodium when I'm eating whole natural foods, and it makes me feel better.
Right, I have tried it. It's very salty when you drink it. You have to kind of tone it down with a bunch of water.
Yeah, so it's shocking, but if you're used to eating processed foods,
right,
you're not gonna see a result of that.
Gotcha.
If you're eating whole natural foods and you're just salting your food yourself, a lot of times if you're working out and you're sweating, that's not a lot of salt for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
So people don't actually realize, I think, how much sodium is
so we can keep it salty.
Food. Right. Yeah.
All
keep
right.
it salty as long as you're having whole natural foods.
I love it.
I suggest if you're experiencing any of those symptoms to try adding a little bit more salt into your diet and see how it goes.
Cool. Awesome. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
I would love to hear some of your favorite kitchen tools. That was another topic I had.
Okay. Well, actually, exciting news.
Turkey baster? Is that one?
Definitely not the turkey baster, but we got a new air fryer for Christmas.
Oh, awesome!
Yes!
That's awesome.
I don't know about you, but our air fryer got raunchy.
Ours
it was
ours
bad.
is used hourly. It's horrible.
And I will admit that I washed it this morning. We had already fallen into the habit of not washing it right away.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, was where we went wrong the last time. And we did, fun fact, read the booklet this time. And to deep clean, you can boil the parts, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I think they actually might have added vinegar into the water or something like that. But air fryer is definitely a go-to for us.
Yep.
I've been using my blender a lot more so for the baby because I pre-make the pouches for him. Mm-hmm. Kitchen tools, knives, obviously, big one. Oh, one for us is kitchen scissors, the meat scissors.
Like shears, yeah.
We use that shit for everything.
Yes, they're so good. And so many people don't have
a good
pair of heavy-duty kitchen shears. And I'm like, whether you're taking a backbone out of a turkey or a chicken, or if you're just trying to open something that's challenging, they're so useful.
Oh, yeah. And we, cut up almost anything with those things.
Right.
Like chicken tenders. Obviously, you have to make sure you clean them really well in between uses. But my flowers, I'll cut the stems. I'll cut up chicken tenders for the baby.
Yep.
Well, what else? Oh, quesadillas. We've even resorted to cutting those with those.
I mean, you'll even see pizza restaurants now that serve, instead of cutting it, they serve you a pair of heavy-duty kitchen shears.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, they
cool.
give you a pair of kitchen shears to kind of cut off the amount of slices or amount that you want.
Love it. And what are some of your go-tos?
So, I don't know why, but for some reason, the chef in me was like, I'll never need a rice cooker. I can make great rice. I don't need one. And then I married my husband and was like, wow, this person goes through pounds of rice a week. This sucks.
Cooking 10 pounds of rice a week is exhausting.
I'm like, I need an industrial rice cooker just to maintain. Then we got a dog, and we do add some rice into her meals. So I was like, wow, I am really just making
blowing through this rice.
A 10-pound bag of rice.
In that specialized aisle that has 20-pound bags of rice.
Yeah, literally, we'll go home with a 10-pound bag of rice a week. It's crazy.
Wow.
And I eat it myself too, so I never thought I would get one, but I caved and I bought the $15 small rice cooker on Amazon. Best thing I have ever purchased.
All right, I'll have her send me the link and I'll put it in the description or however that works. We're still new at this.
Yeah, I think the brand is Aroma, and it's a very common one. You've probably seen it online.
Yeah, I think I've had an Aroma something.
Yeah, and it's, it sits on my countertop. It's maybe 3/4 of a foot by half a foot tall.
Yeah.
It makes a couple cups of rice at a time, and I probably run it through twice and make rice for the week,
Okay.
and I can just prep all my other stuff while the rice is cooking on the
That's
stove.
awesome, because that is one thing we definitely lean on, like the microwave pouches, which I don't love because they are
can
like
get pricey too.
Yeah, pricey, and like I don't love the idea of microwaving plastic. That's like another thing we've been trying to work on. But sometimes it's just convenient and that's easy. And I don't know, I feel like cooking rice normally is like an art form. Because you try and follow the instructions and it's always burnt on the bottom of my pan. I'm like, how is this happening? And then we watch, have you ever watched Joe Coy? He's a comedian on Netflix.
No, I haven't.
But he does a skit on like how there's like this go-to method for cooking rice. And essentially you put it in like a microwave dish and you fill up the water. You put your rice in. I don't know if you actually measure it or not. I just resorted to not measuring it and hoping for the best. So I pour my rice, and then you pour the water, and if you insert your finger and, like, touch the top of the rice, the water is supposed to be, like, to the first line or something. Is that legit?
Yeah, that is legit.
Okay.
So, but it's so funny because I see people try this method, and it's, like, whether it's, like, their wife's finger or their husband's finger, and it's, like, the rice is either, like, underdone or overcooked, and they're like, where's the happy medium?
Right,
and I'm like... kind of still have to know the measurement to be able to like test it.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's what I do with my rice cooker.
Yeah.
Same
so,
thing.
well, rice is a big art form, but definitely rice cooker could make life a lot easier.
Yes.
Anything else for you guys?
If you are living on your own, this is for all of you, and you don't have a good pair of knives, you need to get a good pair of knives. I know that a lot of people are intimidated by it too.
Yeah.
But you really do need to get a good pair. If there were 3 things in like a knife set I would recommend if you don't want to splurge on a whole set, it would be a chef knife, a large one, which is an all-purpose utility knife, and then a smaller one for smaller tasks, and a paring knife.
Got it.
Obviously, we know there's serrated knives, slicing knives, and if you have the funds, like splurge and get those. But if you don't have any, those are the 3 that you should have for sure.
Gotcha. And then any particular material that you like typically buy for your knife? I think ours are like titanium or something. Yeah,
so it depends. Different brands from different regions are going to, make differently and be for different purposes. I have a lot of my knives are German made.
Okay.
Actually, one of my students for Christmas, his father, did I show you?
Yeah.
His father and him forged a paring knife for each of us in the program, each one of the teachers, and it was like a very high quality knife. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, depending if you go like the German route or the Japanese route, it's not so much the material, it's more so the make of the knife. So typically the Japanese style knives will be a little bit thinner for more delicate things, and then the German knives will be more like heavy duty.
Okay.
I kind of steer people toward German knives, especially if they're not super used to knife care.
Yeah.
They're just going to hold up a little bit more and for a lot longer without as much maintenance.
Okay, cool. Yeah, knives are definitely big because, I don't know, you just need them for anything, I feel.
And kitchen shears, we talked
about. Yes, kitchen shears.
Yeah, I have kitchen shears for sure.
Love it.
Other than that, if you're into meal prepping and tracking macros, invest in a good food scale.
Yeah, for sure.
Like mine, I've had, it's tried and true since college, like $7.99 on Amazon, and it's
not expensive.
Hasn't broken yet. So I use it for meal prepping, but also as a chef, I use it for my gram recipes that are scaled in grams, bread making, stuff like that. So it's just a good all-purpose tool to have.
Yeah, I love the scale, and I think another goal of mine too, with like the membership, is to like have people get used to tracking foods for the awareness portion of it. Because for me, I like to track food because I typically undereat or like fall short of like protein or carbs, especially. But I think something I would really love for people to learn is to use the scale, like do the dirty work, like use your scales, measure things, but then also like pay attention to like what that looks like, so then you can kind of intuitively measure. Because then when you're able to feel confident in doing that, it kind of takes some of that stress away. Like obviously, like if you're in a cut because you're doing like something, or you're, I don't know, preparing for an event that you really want to lean out for, or like maybe you're in like a show of some kind, like yes, like use the tools to like make sure you're precise. But I think utilizing the tools at first is so important, so then like you can just feel confident and empowered to like intuitively measure and like picture out like portions, I guess is a way to put it.
Right. If you are a novice, it's going to be very eye-opening to see how little or how much of something you can get. I remember, I'll never forget, the first time I measured peanut butter, I was like,
oh my
what
god,
the fuck is
yes,
this?
like I can have this much.
Right. I was like, okay, well, guess I'll have to use PB2 for the rest of my life to get more volume. Like,
right?
it's absurd. So it's just those little things that you don't realize until you actually put in, like you said, the dirty work to see how much things are.
Yeah.
And a lot of people either undereat or overeat, and they have no idea.
Right, exactly.
So
they're just totally unaware.
I suggest people definitely measure their food for a week and just see where they're at.
Yeah, even just a week.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
then adjust. Yeah. And then you have a better mind going forward for intuitively eating if that's what you want to do.
Right. Do you use a tracker or anything for your food?
I still use MyFitnessPal.
Okay.
I feel like throughout the years, I'm sure you too, like some things are engraved in my brain.
Yep.
Like 200 grams of rice is going to be X amount of carbs and yada, yada, yada. So I'm right now more on the intuitively eating. I'm being more mindful because I'm on like a gut healing journey right now. So I'm being more mindful of the ingredients I'm using more so than the macros.
Okay.
Although I'm always hitting my protein target. That's super important.
Yeah.
And then I'm at like a moderate carb, moderate fat right now.
Okay.
But my MyFitnessPal, the free version is tried and true.
Yeah.
Got me through college, got me through high school, everything. So it's a good resource. How about yourself?
I was MyFitnessPal, and then when they got rid of the scan for like the free people, I ended up switching to macros first. Very similar outlook, or processing rather, as far as like adding things in. But I do like how they lay out like the macros for each like meal and ingredient, because I think it just helps with like, especially for new people, learning like what's in each food or like how to balance things out as far as your day goes. But I mean, they're both really great. Any type of tracking, even if it's writing it in a journal for a week, just to bring some awareness again to what you're eating. And then if it's written down on paper, unless you have like a coach to like review it with, but even if you're on your own, you can like look at your 3 meals, be like, okay, like I noticed, I don't know, breakfast was really carb heavy because I had French toast, and then whatever, I don't know, it just like makes you aware.
Yeah, reflection is so important in this process,
right.
Especially if you are a novice to this whole meal prep and macro tracking game.
Yep.
Reflection and finding out what's best for you.
Right.
Because like we said, everyone's so different. Everything is so, adaptable. I can have a recipe and someone might not like an ingredient and they can swap it out.
Exactly.
It's just going to be different for everybody. So.
Yeah. You can cater almost every dish to either like lifestyle choices, whether it's like vegan or whatever, or like maybe you're trying to do high fat, low fat. You just have to be mindful of what things are made up of, so then you can feel confident in making those swaps.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome. Is that everything that you had on your list?
I think so.
Awesome.
Let me just double check.
I feel like we had some great tidbits,
for
sure.
Really good tips.
Prepping like pros over here.
Yep. One thing I guess I could add is, we already talked about 80-20 as far as homemade and things that are already prepared for you, meal prep and ingredient prep, depending on what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
I'm a big, I can't waste food.
Yes.
I can't do it. And, you talked about earlier.
Cringy.
Yeah, you talked about earlier how some people are just so unaware and they don't know what to do, but wasting food is like the biggest, it makes me cringe. I can't, because there are so many people that need food and so many people in need. So I really do challenge people to use what they can. Maybe you don't have a prepared meal for Friday and you clean out your fridge, and whether that's taking an ingredient and saying I don't know what to do with it, look it up. Like there's so many resources out there. Not Your Average Prep, TikTok, YouTube, cookbooks,
all recipes. I think my dad uses. You can put like the protein and then it'll give you a bunch of different recipes.
There's so many cool resources to use out there. There's really no excuse. And then one of my favorite tips is learn base recipes and then you'll never forget them, and you can adapt them to whatever you want. So like I mentioned the salad dressing, a 3-to-1 ratio of oil to vinegar, and then you can play around with spices and emulsifiers and things like that. So just a couple tips and tricks, and then everyone's different, so adapt it to what you like.
Yeah, thanks, girlfriend. This was awesome. And do you want to shout out your food truck and stuff while you have a second, so we can hopefully like bring you guys some business when it gets rolling?
Yeah, so literally rolling. So our food truck is called Ochre Eats. It's been quite the task. I give so much praise to all food truck owners and entrepreneurs out there who have started a food truck from scratch. It is no small task.
Doesn't
for sure.
sound like it based on what you shared.
No small task. But hopefully we can get that thing literally rolling in 2024. And any locals, keep an eye out for food truck events. And hopefully we see you there at some point.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I'll see you probably
tomorrow
at the club per usual. She's one of our regulars, our after hours crew that hangs out and chats it up with us. But yeah, there are some tips on how to prep like a pro. Thanks for tuning in, and subscribe and like if you want to hear some more from the Shits and Gigs podcast. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.